This morning, the Senate Judiciary Committee begins its consideration of a constitutional amendment to repair the damage done by a series of flawed Supreme Court decisions that overturn long-standing precedents of the court and eviscerated campaign finance laws. I believe that left unanswered, these rulings will continue to erode fundamental aspects of our democratic process. Therefore, the Congress, the American people, have to act. Years ago, Congress passed campaign finance laws to preserve the integrity of the electoral process, to prevent and deter corruption, and to limit the undue influence of the wealthy and special interests in our election. Rules that each of us had to follow. And these were passed by large majorities, Republican, Democratic, in the Senate and House, but 5 justices have now repeatedly overturned these common sense and time-honored protections. The Citizens United and McCutcheon cases. In doing so, the Supreme Court has opened the floodgate to billionaires who are pouring vast amounts of unfettered and undisclosed dollars into political campaigns across the country. Justice John Paul Stevens had it right when he wrote that the court's decision in Citizens United threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. I've heard from countless Vermonters about how the Supreme Court's decision threatened the constitutional rights of hardworking Americans who wanted their voices heard, not drown a series of special interests and flooded campaign ads on television. They also like to know who is actually behind ads for or against a particular person. The American people continue to voice their support through other avenues. More than 2 million individuals signed petitions calling for a constitutional amendment to fight back against the corrosive effects of the Supreme Court's decisions regarding money in politics. Those petitions have been brought, I believe, to our hearing room today, and they're, where are they?
See where their hands are in the boxes.
Those are in those boxes in the back, those large white boxes. They're a tangible reminder that Americans are calling on Congress to act. You know, the ability of all Americans, not just wealthy ones, to express their views and have their voices heard in the political process is vital to self-government. And the common sense of the American people tells us that corporations are not people. The Supreme Court says corporations are people, but while we've elected a General Eisenhower president, we're probably not going to elect a General Electric president. Those who claim to adhere to the original intent of the Constitution cannot reasonably argue the framers viewed the rights of corporations as central to our electoral process. I've served in the Senate for nearly 40 years, chairman of the Judiciary Committee for nearly 10. I've long been wary of attempts to change the Constitution because I've seen so many hundreds of proposals that I've opposed, used like bumper stickers merely to score political points. Our fundamental charter is sacred, and amending it should be only done as a last resort. But like most Vermonters, I strongly believe that we must address the divisive and corrosive decisions by the Supreme Court that have dismantled nearly every reasonable protection against corruption in our political process. I hope to be able to, we had tried for years to pass a law to require transparency and disclosure of political spending. Let people know where the money is coming from and from whom and which special interests it might be. But unfortunately, Senate Republicans have repeatedly filibustered that legislation known as the Disclose Act. It would have at least allowed people to know who's putting the money into the electoral process. So I hope we'll be able to convince enough of my friends on the other side of the aisle to overcome the filibuster of this transparency matter. But because the Supreme Court based its rulings on a flawed interpretation of the First Amendment, a statutory fix alone will not suffice. Now I'm going to turn first, of course, to Senator Grassley, and then we want to hear from both Senator Reid and Senator McConnell. And I want to thank my friends Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell for being here. I think their joint appearance is the first in this committee's history, as near as we can tell. I can only speak for 40 years of the committee's history, but it underscores the importance of the public discussion we're having today. While we may disagree on some issues, both of the senators are good friends of mine. I'm glad to have them here.